All right, welcome back to All That Jam, where music has no limits. Joined today by the one and only Fuzz. Fuzz, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm fantastic. How about yourself?
So good, so good. And Kevin, of course. Hey, Kevin, good afternoon.
This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am so excited for today. Fuzz, I had reached out to you like I am wont to do often with folks that I've loved their music for a long time. There's so much we're going to get into today, but first I want to start with what's going on right now. You just released a single yesterday, Love Came. It is phenomenal. I've listened to it a whole bunch of times. Let's talk a little bit about that because that's just you, right, on this particular song?
Yeah. So it literally is just me, like across the board. Like I've been, it really, the roots of this, whatever you want to call it, project that I'm working on right now, which I'm calling Fuzz On It, is basically like, and the reason why that name came about is just because, there's a lot of fuzzes out there in the world, as I started getting into distributing more of my music online, I realized that I was up against a lot of, and it gets really confusing when you're trying to search for things. You're like, which fuzz is it? And so Fuzz On It has become the name that I use for all my, latest, musical endeavors, basically. But so when things shut down during COVID, I started getting out there. My only gig was basically me going out and playing by myself, playing guitar and singing. And I kind of worked up a lot of things during that process. A lot of, from a performance angle, like just really getting it to deliver as a solo thing, completely guitar, voice. I have a thing that I stomp on. I don't have it here, but it's like a kick drum sound, because I'm still trying to deliver the same amount of energy and dynamics and whatever and fun that you would have in a band show, but with myself. And so over the course of that year or two, it really kind of found its way. And then also during that time, I spent a lot of time at home, and like you guys saw before, but me and my home studio setup, I started to really like work on getting. I always knew how to twist the dials and stuff, but I got a lot better at producing my own music at home, and so I've been doing that, and it's basically been me recording myself as I would have, in that format of the solo thing. And I released a song last year, which was a cover of the Eurythmics' Sweet Dreams, but I do it very differently, more like almost like a Caravan of Thieves style, like a swingy kind of sound. And then I've got all these new songs that I've written over the last few years that I was like, let me get in, so I actually have a lot of them recorded already. I'm just putting the final touches on it. But the first release of my songs was Love Came, which I just put out yesterday. and they're all under the Fuzz On It title. And so we'll see how this all flies for the next few months.
I love that. And, you, in my mind, you are so synonymous with the Northeast, with Connecticut, with the scene out there, of course, for many years. I think you're still based out that way, right?
Yeah, I'm in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which I've been for, most of my adult life. But I grew up in New York. But yeah, I've been here, and that's been kind of a home base, especially lately, because I've got occasional where I'll go out and do a few shows here and there outside of the region, but mostly been doing a lot of stuff, I guess you want to say locally, because I also teach a lot too. I teach a lot of music lessons, and I teach guitar and piano and drums and pretty much everything other than wind instruments. And so So I've been doing a lot of that lately too. I've really kind of gotten this is the first time in my life really that I've been really settled into a home base, because it was always on the road traveling and stuff like that. So
yeah, for sure. Well, the music scene out there in Black Rock, Park City Music Hall, all the other, I know the Fairfield, area has also been like a home base for you with FTC and Warehouse. It feels like there is a very strong support system and community for live music out that way.
Yep, definitely. And it's I grew up on Long Island and in the city, and I feel like Connecticut actually was, and that's one of the reasons why I moved to Connecticut. But the first reason was because half the band of Deep Banana Blackout wanted to move to Connecticut, so I just sort of followed along. But then I realized it was such a good music scene here because it was sort of the best of both worlds. It was like didn't have the same amount of competitiveness, I guess, of being in the city, but it wasn't total like just like suburban dead zone. Like it was a lot of like a lot of communities, a lot of musicians. Maybe it helps also that it's sort of like almost equidistant between New York City and Boston and Hartford and places like that. So there's other major cities that are within like an hour to 2 hours drive, and that kind of thing I think helps a lot too. Just having the area be concentrated with talent, but also opportunities and people who really most importantly people who really appreciate music that come out a lot. There's maybe gotten a little saturated here recently with music venues because everyone wants to get a piece of the pie. But there's on any given night of the week almost there's somebody's having a show within a 30-minute drive, and so there's a lot, especially in the summertime because there's a bunch of outdoor venues and stuff. So there's a lot going on here, music wise and opportunity wise.
Giving awesome. Denver a run for their money.
I know. I'm a Jersey girl, born and raised, so know where you're at. Know that area really, really well. Always have loved it. Have all the memories of all the gathering of the vibes and all that going way back. That was just my scene. Kevin's in Baltimore, but yeah, I live in Denver now, and that's its own universe of sorts as well. You mentioned Deep Banana Blackout, and of course, we want to chat about that. But, where I would really like to focus some time is Caravan of Thieves and the work that you have done over the years. Because to me, that always felt like at the one point a natural next step, but also a departure in a way from maybe what people had expected to hear from you. And over the years, I've read some incredible descriptions of Caravan of Thieves. And one of them I wanted to start with to see how you feel about it today. And I think it may have been from you, I'm not sure, but it was something along the lines of, we want to create music that's been mistakenly left out of the standard songbook, right? But do it in a way that's basically relevant to people, that still feels relatable. And that to me was an amazing concept. And I'm like, yeah, I totally get that. Like, how would you describe what you all do in Caravan of Thieves?
Yeah, so I mean, to start where you started, basically, which is it was definitely intentionally a departure. Especially coming out of what I was doing previously, which would have been like Deep Banana Blackout and the jam scene and the funk scene. Like I wanted to do something that was not connected to that in any way. And in a lot of ways, it was was like starting over from scratch. And I'm thankful for that now. At the time, of course, it's obviously challenging when you're trying to build a whole new scene, but we successfully did. Completely separate from the Deep Banana and jam world scene, although there's probably a little bit of crossover. The little Venn diagram happens there, but it's very slight, probably because it really was built out of like a combination of like the Performing Arts Center kind of crowd, the folk and bluegrass crowd, and just kind of like an artsy, whatever you want to say, like theatrical, some people who just like to go out to see something different. And so and that was the thinking behind it initially, of course, besides the initial like musical inspiration. That was the business side of it, but the musical side was because I was starting to do a lot more acoustic guitar stuff, and also wanted to do something that I was always a big Django Reinhardt fan, but I didn't want to just learn all of his licks and be another one of these guys emulating exactly what he did and following that whole songbook. And so I just wanted to take it as an influence along with, several other things, which could have been, it was kind of the spooky storytelling, which we call the Tim Burton side of it, and the kind of theatrical side, which is also maybe a little bit of that Tim Burton thing, but also kind of a little bit of the folk and bluegrass world, although I don't think the music can really be considered that kind of thing, but it takes from those things, especially the instrumentation. and you know, and then just whatever rock pop music, even though it's not a rock band, like we do write songs and sing songs and do things like all of our covers are completely not in the jazz or Django, right? It's all stuff like Bohemian Rhapsody and Psycho Killer from Talking Heads. I mean, it was an opportunity to take that music and completely turn it on its head and make it our own thing, so that way it could fit in with the sound that we were going after. So as far as like your comment about the songbook, like that was the idea. Is like the point was to try to sound like it's like coming out of somewhere else in time. Like it's like we've been transported through the time machine, and poop, we landed in here. We almost don't know what to do with ourselves. Like we were very adamant in the beginning about not seeming modern in any way. Like we wouldn't even allow plastic water bottles on the stage. Like we wanted to seem like we were coming out of like somewhere either between like 1870 and 1930. Like, and it's like, you know, and so this sort of timeless jazz vibe. Even the way we dressed, of course, we would never wear any kind of like jeans and t-shirts on stage. It was always like wearing like button-down things and ties and vests and stuff like that. And so like we and you know, that was the concept behind the visualization, and also where, you know, and then of course like the music, it's like I want to write, obviously anybody, maybe any goal for any songwriter would to write something that is like, it sounds like it could fit in that songbook of timeless whatever standards and stuff like that, but it's not that. Like it's obviously is something fresh, and so, you know, just trying to set some sort of goal that way, but trying to write stuff that, you know, in a way was like not, it's like it's been done before, but it's just a fresh take on it, I suppose, you know. So
how much of a difference was there in the process of writing songs between what you did with Deep Banana and what you started doing in Caravan of Thieves?
Well, that's interesting, because like at the time there was a couple of things I was doing leading up, and I did have another project with Carrie, and it was called Rolla, and we were like more of like an indie rock, like kind of alternative. It was like, you know, somewhere between like, I don't know, like maybe Wilco and the Shins or something like that, you know, like, and so it was like, it had that little vibe to it. And I started to, and I really got into, what's that band? They're in that time period, like early 2000s. I forget now. It'll come back to me. But they were kind of like a little bit artistic and sort of it's gonna bug me. But anyway, there was some other music I was checking out that had a little bit of that vibe to it. And then so I started to write things that were kind of going in that direction. But once the concept came to me, which happened really like all in one shot. I was walking, you know, down by the water with the headphones on, actually in Black Rock, you know, like, and I'm listening to Django Reinhardt, and I'm like, this is the sound. I'm like, we're not going to copy this, but we're going to do this. We're going to do what we've been doing. When I say we, I mean Carrie and I. We were had a band. We were also like a singing songwriting duo, and so we did, you know, as acoustic guitars, and we were the main backdrop and template for a lot of the stuff we were doing, even leading up to Caravan of Thieves, was singing harmony together. That became something we realized, honestly, like the first day we met, like, wow, our voices harmonize really well together, and so we kind of knew that was a thing, and we wanted to somehow capture that and use it wherever we were going to use it. So I'm like, if we could sing cool harmony, like pop melodic interesting songs over this Django Reinhardt sound, that would be pretty cool. So I came home one day and I said to Carrie, and I was like I got this idea for a band, you know, like we didn't have a name yet, but I was like, it's going to be like something like this gypsy music, but we'll still do what we've been doing. And to her response was like, I'm not really sure what you're talking about, but why don't you write a song or come up with an idea? And, you know, like, and I was like, okay. And actually, and I sat down for a while, and I don't know if it was a day or a week or whatever, but I came up with this song called Bar E Soleil, which was our first, you know, Caravan of Thieves song. And I presented it, and she was like, okay, that's interesting. I was, you know, like, and we kind of put it together from there. And then was just after that, it just kept happening. It really set the tone for what it was. It was very like a kind of, had this sort of gypsy sound, but also this kind of tango. It was also a little, that was another kind of music that was interested in the birth of the whole thing, was like Astor Piazzolla and like tango music and stuff like that. So it had this little tango vibe to it, and waltz or whatever, you know. It's such a hodgepodge of all these things, but it came together pretty quickly. There was a couple of things that weren't totally catching right away, but we figured it out pretty quick, and it really, within about 3 months we had a 4-song EP that we put out as just a basic thing, and then we made the album in like in 10 months. Within 10 months, we made the first album, and we already had done a bunch of shows, and we started covering some songs. I remember we still do it. This hodgepodge of Girl and Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, the two Beatles songs. We really mashed them up and intertwined them, and that was a great way to me, for me to like really kind of like see a way to create the sound, because it's like if we could take these Beatles songs and totally transform them into something that sounds like Caravan, or what what we were going for musically, it really helped to like solidify or clarify the whole concept.
Well, sure. And if I am thinking about it correctly too, the reach of what you do with Caravan of Thieves, I know it extends overseas. I was checking out, I think it was on Spotify. You've got a ton of listeners in Europe, in Poland. I mean, did you experience some different things related to the recognition of your music for Caravan of Thieves that was kind of a new thing for you compared to the jam band scene?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I knew we were cultivating a new audience right from the beginning, and especially because our first show was actually opening up for Ryan Montbleu, and which was kind of a funny thing because it was at the venue here in Fairfield, Connecticut called Fairfield FTC Stage 1, and the gig was actually booked as Fuzz and Carrie, and we showed up with the other two guys all dressed in our outfits with this new band. And Ryan's a good friend of mine, although I haven't seen him in a while, but we showed up and he's like, what the heck is this? And I'm like, we have a new band. And he was just so like flabbergasted and like blown away by the whole thing. And, and it kind of set the tone from there, but we connected really well with his audience. And then we were playing we did a series of opening shows there at this one theater that was perfect for us. It's like a seated black box type theater. And so good for a good listening room. And so we opened up for like some other folk legends. I can't remember who. And within a year we were like headlining the spot. But at the time, like I saw that the audience was going to be a different crowd. Like I was different. I was used to like with the jam scene, a lot of people partying and dancing and maybe being a little like not always in their right mind and like, in party mode. And all of a sudden we had this seated, listening, quiet, attentive audience. So on one hand it's a little nerve wracking, but on the other hand, it was like, we could actually do a lot with this. We can have subtleties. We can have moments where we break it down to just sing around a microphone together like a bluegrass band, or we can joke around and they're going to actually pick up on it because they're actually paying attention to every little thing we do. And so there became a lot of visuals. And so from the live aspect that happened. But then as the music started to, get out there in the world, because at the time we started the band, there still wasn't really like streaming services like Spotify and all that yet. Because we're talking like 2008, 2009, 2010, but by the early like teens, like 2012, 13, like we started seeing, and that's also when we started to go to Europe, because we went to England a few times to play. There was an interest in the band, and we didn't really like make any money doing it, but it was worth the trip, and it caught on really quick. I was like, wow, the British audience and I think the European audience really loved it. We started getting people asking us to come to France, and we never did all that, but people were like, we're playing you on our radio shows. And then I think because of Spotify and a couple of our things just caught on and went viral, like our Bohemian Rhapsody was a big hit. And in the last like 5 years or so, one of our songs called Eat You really took off, and we didn't know about it at first. I was just wondering, I kept seeing the numbers go up and up and up. I was like, how all of a sudden is this song, like this was kind of the underdog here, and all of a sudden it's blowing past everybody. And then I opened up a TikTok account and I figured it out. I was like, it totally went viral on TikTok, and it was like a thing people would do a lip syncing to, an animation to, because it's a freaky song. It's like, I'm gonna eat you, you're my desire, it's got like every other creepy Caravan of Thieves song, so it caught on really, really well, and then once that momentum hit, it just went crazy on Spotify. Now it's up over 4 million hits, and it's all because of the nature of what that band is. It's so niche. Once you really make a presence in that niche, which is, some people call it dark cabaret, some people call it it's like a steampunk thing, or gypsy, whatever you want to call it. Like it's really kind of made a name in very small but very attentive niche of people, and so it's on a ton of, all our music's on like a ton of playlists on Spotify and stuff like that. So it really took off a lot more than anything I've ever, including Deep Banana Blackout, like by a long shot, like how much more it has taken off, just the music online going global. And so, because obviously once something goes viral there, it goes viral everywhere, and all of a sudden all these people from all around the world are like our fans now, and I'm like, world tour.
Totally. Well, and that was a great album too. The Funhouse, I think that's the album that that song is on, with I Can't Behave, 2012 era. I mean, all of the releases you all have put out, I think, are fantastic, because there feels like there's a common thread there. But I feel like from the songwriting perspective, I mean, you all are just very creative in trying new things and using. So I was an English major, Kevin was a poetry major, so both of us just love words, right? And like the ability to write songs with really creative, engaging lyrics, and then connect them to that kind of music, to me is really fascinating. Do you write most of the lyrics? How does that breakdown kind of work between you all?
Yeah, so I mean, all the songs come from Carrie and I. I mean, not to say that the other guys who were in the band, I mean, it's a different band now. We have a different bassist and violin player now. The other guys actually left the band at the end of 2015. But we were always the band, like, kind of leaders and songwriters and stuff like that. It's hard to say. Like, I mean, I probably have initiated more of the concepts, because a lot of this was just this wacky thing always going around in my head, And so where Carrie and I work best as a songwriting team would be like, I plop something down on the table and be like, I've got this idea, and then we would be able to together, like, finish it, with the arrangements and different, tweaks on the lyrics and tweaks on the, melodies and of course the harmonies. Like, she has this like sort of a magical ability to, like, take anything and harmonize it. So that really, it was always, like, made the process actually easy. Like, we didn't have to sit there and really work out all that stuff. And so, but yeah, a lot of times one of the reasons why I thought about, and I'm glad that you noticed that about the lyrics, because I find that, like, sometimes in songwriting, lyrics, especially in like rock bands and definitely jam bands, that the songwriting and lyrics tend to be a little sort of secondary to the music, to the jams, and to the, and I always just love songwriting. I'm a big, like, I've always been a big songwriting fan, like, artists who that's their thing, and especially ones who write really interesting, cool lyrics that really stand out. They're kind of a little edgy. They tell a story, like somebody like Tom Waits or something like that. Like, and so and also another big influence actually on this whole thing was Dr. Seuss. And so we actually do the Grinch. And so we a lot of it was trying to be playful. A lot of it was trying to, like, I'm a big, like, internal rhymes person. Like, I like to do a lot of stuff that just rhymes on top of rhymes and takes you on this zigzaggy path of, like, this word, they don't, like, it's not just like rhyme, rhyme. It's like rhyme and then another rhyme popping around. And so that was, I can't stop my brain from doing that sometimes, just wordplay. It's my biggest sense of humor, to, like, take words and flip them upside down and twist it. And so it's kind of just where my head goes anyway. The sound of words. We even wrote a song based on the sound of words. Our song Rattlesnake. I remember doing this process, the Gary and I sitting down with a dictionary in the S part and writing down all the S words that we thought would be, like, interesting to include in the song. And then you got to sing it in the slaughterhouse, like, and stuff like that. And because the idea is it's a rattlesnake, and so there's all these S words, and it was sort of fun to write a song that has, like 90% of it is words that start with the word S, like the letter S. And so, it's, things like that, and so, yeah.
That's super cool. I feel like in the jam scene these days, and this is just my personal opinion, looking at lyrics, even kind of putting the actual music to the side, which is hard to do. I think Goose has a lot of lyrics that Rick writes that seem to have some literary devices in them. There's bands out there, but I think you're right. It does, at least for me, stand out when I feel like there's particular attention paid to how the words form, how, there's some conscious decisions made, to go in one direction or another. And so I always really kind of dig into that when I feel like there's real meaty lyrics in any direction, whether it's serious or not. It's what's happened in there. I don't know,
Yep.
Kevin, I know you always.
Well, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to do both, to write
Mhm.
music and lyrics. I mean, Garcia had Hunter, and they wrote lots of
Right.
really cool songs,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's why
But
they had such great lyrics, right?
right, but like a Tom Waits or a Dylan or something, it does take some a different level, I guess. And what I'd say is you were really good at the line.
Mhm.
I have this theory that when you listen to a song, all you hear is the line that's being sang. You might know the line coming up, you might remember, but in that second, all you're catching is the line. Whereas if you look at a poem on a piece of paper, you can scan it and look back
Right.
up and down. I think you're good at dropping the line, which was something Hunter was brilliant at. You know, thank you for a real good time in Loose Lucy. I mean, the crowd goes wild. You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's very astute. Like and I think it's funny. At the time, there was a lot going on at the time that the birth of this band happened, and at the time, I had borrowed from a friend a book of just all Bob Dylan lyrics. I remember just doing it like I just want to read these words. I want to hear the song. I just want to read through the lyrics and see what and just the way he did play with phrasing and rhyme schemes and things like that. And of course the descriptive language and all that stuff. Like I was this is almost beyond my comprehension how amazing this work is. And but also at the same time I was reading, I'm also a big Wilco fan, and I was reading a lot of I was reading a biography about Jeff Tweedy, and I remember him saying that when he was in his early days of writing songs, like he would do that. He would write. He had all these one-liners he would write down, and that's why you have these songs like each star is a setting sun, things like that. Like it's like these drop this one line. It's just like you just hear this one thing, you're like, oh my God, that's like so heavy. This makes so much sense. It's so profound, whatever, or it's just so catchy that it just sticks in your head. And it's just that one line that stands out. So I was always trying to find that one line. I initially was always a big hook writer, and even in Deep Banana, that was my biggest role in Deep Banana, was to write the hooks, like the song, the part that everybody's singing along to. And so I'm always good at that kind of thing, but then to make the whole song full of things like that became something that a bigger work in progress. And so how do I fill the song with all these like catchy lines that could be interesting just on their own, as opposed to just the one spot where the hook comes in and you all start singing. So it's trying to have the best of both worlds in that, and have the verses be as strong as the chorus. That was always my goal. I'm good at the choruses. I need to get better at my verses, and so that was really the objective in Caravan of Thieves, was to write verses as strong as the chorus hooks could be.
Mm-hmm. Does your I don't know if the right word is confidence or trust, maybe they're intertwined, but does your sense of how you're doing that, has that changed over time? Like your ability to kind of get something out there on the page or what have you, and kind of look at it and say, yes, that's it. Has that changed, or have you always been able to kind of put something out there and feel that that's what it is?
Yeah, I mean, probably have gotten a little more critical, if anything, over the years. And I try to keep that at bay, because sometimes you could easily talk yourself out of something and be like, oh, maybe I need to keep change. So I will say this song "Love Came" that I just put out has changed a lot. I mean, it actually has been the earliest phases of it were actually in Caravan of Thieves, like it was something I had introduced a long time ago and kind of put it to bed. I came back to it, put it to bed, came back. So I've second guessed myself through this whole process of writing this song, like probably 5 different times. And so but the recent one that I released, which is that came about because of my solo acoustic performances. It really kind of hit a good vibe and kind of feel of like this kind of dancey thing and kind of hard hitting blues, I guess, if you want to say. But I think that I'm trying to come up with stuff that I think is profound, I guess, and and interesting, but at the same time, relatable. And so it's like, so I feel like if I think too hard, maybe I'm like going too deep down a path of like, I'm the only one that's going to get this. And so, and the, like, that's why a lot of the Caravan of Thieves stuff, even though it gets a little kind of quirky, and we've got songs about like a guy that's a bug, and, like, like, it's like, but it's told in a way that's always, like, even our song Eat You, which is, became obviously a big, whatever internet buzz thing. Like it's the concept of it is kind of like on the surface is like, I'm going to eat you. What is that? Is that a cannibalistic thing? Like, it's like, and you could say it is, but really it's a love song, like it's about like, it's about just being really into somebody. And I love you so much, or I want you so much, I want to eat you, not literally, but like everything's a metaphor. And so those kinds of things, I'm constantly trying to like walk that line of like, I could go kind of a little far off the path, but I still want to keep it like related to something else that's like normal everyday life. And so that way it's, whether it's a love song or whatever song, like, it connects in that way.
Yeah. Well, what you just said definitely full circles right around to that original description that we started talking about. And I mean, I think it's so true. I was curious, if we go back a little further, obviously the show is called All That Jam, for Kevin and I, the jam scene, I'll speak for myself, decades upon decades has been kind of the community that I've been a part of in different ways. One of the things that I personally love to ask people, especially people who really can remember like that early mid 90s, late 90s era.
She's calling you old.
I was an active participant. I'll put myself right up there.
Been around for a couple decades.
Yeah. Remember it. Like I remember most of it. We talked to a lot of artists, and I'll say one was Kevin, who was at Alan Evans. We talked to members of the Gray Boy All Stars. And what's interesting is, we kind of asked them, well, did you find the jam scene? Did it find you? What do you really think of that as a musical genre, right? And we get all kinds of different answers. So I guess I would throw that to you and say, like, was that something that you all were aiming for, or did that kind of find you for the Deep Banana days?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's an interesting one, and I've said this before many times. Like, it totally found us. Like, when we started the band, we really were interested in was James Brown and P-Funk and Stevie Wonder and Aretha Franklin or whatever. Like, that's all we were thinking about. We were not thinking about jam music, and when you think about early Motown, it's very like it's very like to the point. Like and that's kind of what we were doing. Now I did, as a teenager, I was like a rock guitar player, and some of my favorite music after I got through my heavy metal phase was to get into like a lot of classic rock and prog rock. I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, and I love like psychedelic stuff that's like kind of trippy and trancy and all that kind of stuff. And so but then I discovered the blues, and then I got into funk music, and then there's Deep Banana Blackout. And so we, but at the time that we were doing it, I think we were all in this mindset of like, we just want to be like we want to sound like we're straight out of the early 70s or late 60s doing Motown and funk and that kind of thing. And as we were doing it, like anything else, all of a sudden the scene started emerging, and it was in the beginning, I feel like it was a little bit diverse because it was mostly us just playing in bars. But as soon as we approached we had a couple of opportunities land in our lap. Like, we played the very first Gathering of the Vibes, which was in Croton Point Park, and we did a late night 1 a.m. set. And at the time, I mean, look, me and the drummer went to high school together, and we've known each other a long time. And we were always doing different kinds of wacky music. We loved to do, things where we'd get together in the basement and just like freeform for an hour, just go, making wacky music up. We appreciated the whole range of it. Like, can you be really like to the point and make a very concise pop or R&B song, or can you just freak out and have a jam thing? So as we were starting to do it, and I've been known to kind of let the guitar go for a while, and just like, and so like, and so like, so we, at the time we were kind of doing it already a little bit. Like we'd have our moments, like maybe like it wasn't every song, but like maybe like a third of the show was like we would explore a little bit with the guitar, or maybe the saxophone, and or the key. We didn't have keys even in the beginning, and so what happened was that we played the Gathering of the Vibes on the Friday night, late night, and it was a cool like late night set. Of course, everyone was like probably out of their minds. Like and then the Sunday afternoon we played the afternoon set, and I'm thinking like nobody knows who we are. We're not really like the Grateful Dead or any of this other thing stuff going on here. And like there was a huge crowd in front of us ready to go, and I was like, oh, I think they like us. And before long we played our first Wetlands show, and then our second Wetlands show we started opening up for this one and that one, and within a year we were a jam band. And all of a sudden that was our crowd, and I was like, okay, I guess these people I don't care who's coming to the show as long as they like the music, and we embraced it, of course. And then of course by the time we put on our set, I'm sorry,
and buy a shirt. Embrace the music and buy a shirt.
And buy a shirt, exactly. Yeah. But by the time our second album came out, which was the live one, we were clearly a jam band. Like we have moments where we're just like like going on a real tangent, and we embrace it. And I thought I like it. I like to do both. I like everything. Music, it's like I like it all. So I'm not any like this is the only good kind of music. It really. There's very few things you could put in front of me. I'll be like, nah, like I really like everything. Maybe some things I'd be embarrassed to say, but
you've gone back over the years and revisited Deep Banana in different configurations with different people. What is it like going back and doing that after you've had a long period of being away from it?
Oh, like when we go back and do it, and then like maybe have guests and people like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny because now it does start to feel a little bit like a nostalgia act, because the people coming are like, oh, it's like a little, it's a nostalgia element for the fans. There are people who probably have been in the audience since the 90s, and so and then I don't know, like, and in some way I feel like we're paying just tribute and homage to the music that was written so long ago that it's almost like I can't even remember the process, but it's so it's kind of fun, like, and we've had people who were like newer people, I guess if you want to say, like, obviously we were, we were, I mean, the heyday of Deep Banana is probably from like about 98 to 2003 or something like that. That's when we most of our touring and most of our biggest shows and stuff like that. But some of the people who we have we brought on board with us now are like, they're younger. Like they're not like a lot younger, but they're about 15, maybe even 20 years younger than us, and so I feel like we're sort of bringing them in now as people who, like some of the like Sammy Garrett from Turquoise, I guess now they're called the what do you call cool, like people like folks like that, like they're and they're awesome and they're great and we love working with them. But it is funny to be like, we were always on, like my earliest memories of us being on the other end, being like, oh my god, we get to like play with somebody from James Brown's band, or we get to play with somebody from the Meters, and all of a sudden, like now we're those people. They like, come and join this band that's been around for several decades, and so that kind of feels kind of cool in that way.
Yeah, it's awesome. Speaking of, just as you were talking, I was looking up, I have this entire room is a nostalgia, an ode to nostalgia, but I have a Jammies poster framed from like 2000 or 2001 up here from Irving Plaza. And I'm like, yeah.
Yep, that was one I was probably the music director at, actually. I mean, those were some days, but yeah,
and I would think that there's probably a lot of different feelings around all of that, because I know back, I guess it was it September of last year, was it the Bowery? You were in New York, I think.
We played at Brooklyn Bowl.
Did I say Bowery? I don't even know if that exists anymore.
You did say the Bowery.
The Bowery Ballroom is still there.
Is it there?
Yeah, it is still there, believe it or not. Yeah.
I should know these things. I've been out of the New York.
It was like Deep Banana Kung Fu or something. Is that what you called it?
No, I mean, well, we Well, I'm not sure what we're talking about. So you mean like the recent show that we did, or?
Yeah, I thought I saw
Uh,
something like that. It
I
might
mean,
have just
there.
been tweeting.
Yeah, I mean, we a number of years back we teamed up with Kung Fu and played a show together at what do you call the Capitol Theater in Portchester, and that was kind of interesting where they played and then we played and then we kind of came together. I mean, we work with those guys all the time, like like in different configurations, and there is a project that is called it's Deep Banana Black Belt, and that's like a combination, and that's a combination of some of the guys, which I do sometimes and I sometimes don't, like well it used to be called the Black Rock All Stars, or the Bryac All Star, which is came out of that Black Rock scene, and so it's just the same thing really with a different name on it, because it's actually like it's the members of Deep Banana Blackout and Kung Fu. So so I but that's a couple of shows here and there happen. Yeah, so there's a lot of different offshoots. I mean, I had Big Fuzz, years back, and that was me and some of the guys at Deep Banana, and another, like there's been so many. I had another record that I made that was like the On the Corner with Fuzz. It was also some of the people in Deep Banana, but also other people from the community like DJ Logic and Nate Wilson and Michael Ray, the trumpet player. So it was like, I was always like wanting to get these different. I like the idea of these collaborations and bringing different groups of people together for different types of projects, and all of them were very different. Like, whereas like the On the Corner with Fuzz was kind of like meant to be a little bit jazzy, but with the DJ hip hop kind of thing to it. Big Fuzz was more or less like a rock band with horns, and obviously we talked about Caravan of Thieves, but I try to do different things. I feel like I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. I know that in some way it's probably good to have some consistency, but I just like to change it up.
Yeah. And so I know that you have some dates out there. One is next month, Caravan of Thieves. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I think that's going to be in Connecticut.
Yeah, so we're playing on April 5th. It's a Saturday. It's in Connecticut. It's in Weston, Connecticut, at a place that I've played before. It's called Leshat, like it's spelled Lachat, Town Farm. And they do a lot of outdoor things. I've played actually literally on the farm, like outside in the field, with a solo with a band. And so they have this cool indoor space that I've never been to, but it sounds perfect for Caravan of Thieves. It's like it's a seated indoor type listening space. And so we just actually like literally just booked it last week, and so we've got that coming up there, and we're running off the momentum of a lot of stuff that just happened. Like I said, I mentioned the Eat You thing, which was has been a big push. Also, our song Raise the Dead was just used on an HBO show, and so that a lot of things have kind of been, there's a lot of heat happening behind Caravan of Thieves right now, so we're just following a little bit with that. We have we also have nothing else is on the website, but we have a show that we've done a couple times now in Watch Hill, Rhode Island. It's a really nice outdoor space right on the water. It's I don't even. It's I don't remember the date.
We'll put a link. We'll put some links.
Yeah. You could, link to the site. I haven't actually put all. The only date that's up on the website right now is the one in April. And so, but we've got, but yeah, you can find, I've got my website, which is fuzzonit.com, and there's obviously caravanofthieves.com and that kind of stuff. deepbananablackout.net.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it was is it Creature Commandos? I think was the HBO show. I saw that clip you had posted. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so perfect. That is such a cool thing. Like I love it.
Yeah, right. I didn't know what to expect. They didn't talk about what it was going to be, how it was going to be used.
Curious.
I just knew they were going to use the song, and the show is about like a little bit of this reanimation kind of thing to it, where some of them are like kind of Frankenstein-y. It's perfect, like, thematically for what Caravan of Thieves is about. Not to mention the other people on the soundtrack are like Gogo Bordello. Like that's I think how they came across us. They're probably like, if you like this, you'll like this kind of thing. And so I think some of it may even be set in like Eastern Europe. I'm not really sure. I didn't totally get into watching the show, but when I watched the episode and I saw the scene, I was like, I wasn't expecting that, but I was thought it was going to be about like literally raising dead people up, you know, but it was a total sex scene. And I was like, cool. I was like, I like that. Like,
How does that work? Do you just get a phone call one day and they're like, hey, we want to use your song?
pretty much. Yeah. Like it was like basically somebody reached out to me in an email, and I don't remember how she even found us. I can't remember because it was like a year before it happened, and I you know, I get a lot of these things sometimes. You know, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. You know, like oh yeah, you know, like, and then it never happens. You know, like, and so I didn't think anything of it, and then like. Oh, a few weeks before it happened, they were like, "We're going to use the song. It's going to be in this episode, and it's coming up in like 2 weeks." I was like, "Okay." I was like, you know, like, and so it just happened, and so like I said, I don't know really how they found us. Obviously, we do have a little bit of a presence online with, like I mentioned, with the songs being, you know, pretty well, whatever, like in all the different ways that they can get out there, and then also, you know, and I think the connection through being part of this pretty niche scene. Like I said, you know, there's like 2 Gogo Bordello songs in that one episode. I'm like, okay, I can see how they probably came across us through like finding that, or whatever. Whoever was, you know, doing the music programming was obviously, you know, was pretty knowledgeable about this genre and this niche of music, and so they, you know, probably found us through, you know, or knew about us in some way. So
that's so awesome. That's always been my dream job. I've always wanted to figure out how to get that kind of gig of just being a music director on a movie or a show, because I mean,
it's got to be right place, right time. It's got to be one of those things you just dumb luck into.
I mean, it makes the show that the music and the underlying, you know, that part of it. I think sometimes it's hard to remember, but take a step back. Without that, you don't have nearly the same kind of like resonance emotionally with a film or a show, you know?
Oh yeah. You know, I always think about that when I'm watching a movie, like, or a show or anything like that, because I'm like, what would the scene be like without the music, right? Like when you watch it, I'm just like, it would not have, not even close to the amount of impact it has. A great example is, and I love this movie and the soundtrack, is that movie, what's the Daniel Day-Lewis movie?
There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood, exactly. And Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead did the soundtrack, and that whole opening, there's like about 20 minutes of nothing, no dialogue. It's just him like digging in the ground, and like, but that music that Johnny Greenwood like put together in there is like, it makes the whole thing like so eerie and so like suspenseful, and so, you know, like this is where this movie's going right off the bat, and it's really, really interesting. And then in that same concept of like, I recently saw the movie Flow. I don't know if you know about that one. It's an animated thing that's there's no dialogue in it. It's about a bunch of animals that are surviving this natural catastrophe, and it was a really, really interesting movie in a way that there's zero dialogue. There's no speaking in it from start to finish. It's just animals actually acting like animals, not like acting like people. But the guy who's the director, and I forget his name, I think he's a Swedish guy, he also writes all the music and composes all the music for the show, for the movie, and it's really brilliant, like the way the music works and the way, so it tells the story through the music and of course through the visuals and all that. But I thought that, you know, it was very interesting that it feels to me like almost like, and because I know that he does both, like it was probably a very like kind of intertwined, like, you know, I've got this music and I want to create a scene around it, or you know, conceptualizing the scene and the music at the same time was probably pretty interesting thing. It's worth watching if you could sit through an hour and a half or 2 hours. You know, right. It won an Oscar. It's very good. It's very good. It's very good. I loved it. I loved it. You know,
that's like, great. I definitely will check that out. And you know, I just wanted to, you know, thank you for just everything that you've brought. You know, not just to the scene, but just, you know, constantly, trying new things, and just, I think it's good for everyone, but especially, you know, fans in that jam band scene, for all of us to expand our horizons as well, because it's really easy to stay with what you love, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as a fan, I think it's important to kind of push ourselves also. And if we can do that in a way that feels maybe a little more comfortable, I just think that's such an amazing thing. We're going to wrap up here in a second, but I wanted to just ask, Fuzz, is there anything that we haven't chatted about that you wanted to share? Anything else you've got going on?
No, just that like I said, to me the steps moving forward. I mean, like as I said, I've got my projects that will. I don't know how long they'll be around for. Another year, another 10 years. Like that I've been doing, which is like I mentioned, Caravan of Thieves or Deep Banana Blackout, whatever. But for me, the big move going forward is going to be this. My where I'd like to see my career heading is going to be me being like very much a solo artist, and so like literally by myself with the guitar, singing and playing and trying to. I've been doing shows like this now a bit. Like not everything I do is like that, but as I'm doing this, it's been very like fulfilling to see that I could actually get a room of people going with just me, and I'm not using any tricks. I haven't like done the looping and all that stuff. Like I'm just literally playing everything live and do it. There's no bells and whistles. It's just me and the guitar and the voice and the stomping and that kind of thing. And so I've got about 5 songs that I'm hoping to get out throughout this year, every couple months releasing something new. So all that stuff is going to be on all my pages, obviously, all the social media and the website and stuff like that. But that's and my concept behind the solo thing is that if I start to build it out a little bit and it feels good and I need to, like, I could always add 2 or 1 or 3 or whatever people to it and expand it out from there. But I've been enjoying the idea that I can go out and, like I said, during COVID, I got really into this solo thing, working at home, and I'm really like a one-man operation over here, recording everything at home, designing the artwork. And so like, so this has kind of been my little like at-home project when I'm not running around. I'm like, what can I, this is it right here at this desk. I'm like, what can I record or design? So that's really what I'm kind of, that's my next, whatever, year or 2 of what can I want to see how far I could push that out there and make that a thing, because it's also very independent. And I kind of like that right now, because it's just, I if I want to, I could do it. If I don't want to, but I could take it wherever I want to take it. It's nice. I like working with other people, but it's also nice having this independence of just being just me. And that's been a good thing. So.
Yeah. Well, just keep us in mind for the future. If you have anything that you'd want to chat about, we have a lot of people come back, 3rd, 4th.
Yeah, that'll be me. I'm your guy.
It's so great, because then, we really get to just really deeply know what you have going on. And so just know we're always here. Kevin, is there anything else that you'd want to ask that we didn't talk about?
No, because he's going to come back on sometime.
That's right. We're going to do this again.
Right. Yeah. You can. Obviously, I've got a lot to say. So.
Well, we love to chat. So I think it's a good mix.
Hang out for a second, because I'm going to run the outro there in a minute for us.
Okay.
Fuzz.
You got it.
Everybody watching, we are at All That Jam Pod on all the social medias. I really like Blue Sky. If you haven't done Blue Sky yet, come check us out over there. We also have .com, the YouTube channel. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. We'll see you soon.